Welcome to the Neural Implant Podcast, where we talk with the people behind the current events and breakthroughs in brain implants in an understandable way, helping bring together various fields involved in neuroprosthetics. Here is your host, Ladan Jiracek.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Neural Implant Podcast. Today's guest is me, and I'm going to be talking about what just happened. So I did a thesis defense, PhD thesis defense, and I passed. And then I submitted everything, and I passed. I'm a doctor now. That's doctor to you. I have recorded that, so if you are interested in it, I can send you a copy, but it's probably not going to be very interesting for an audio-only thing. There's a lot of contour plots and figures and everything that'll be hard in an audio-only context, and so I'm happy to send that if you are interested. But basically, since I've moved to the University of Florida, Gainesville, I've been here since about 2018 in the Jack Judy lab since 2019, working as a lab tech, then a master's student, then a PhD student, and now 4 years later as a PhD student. And this whole time doing this podcast, I'm finally a doctor and finally have those three letters, PhD, after my name. I don't know what those letters mean, but I heard that they're important. And so basically, I'm going to be talking about what my thesis was about, and it was about liquid crystal polymer. So in our lab, we use polyimide as a substrate. So this is a soft polymer, soft material that is used in next generation electrodes. A lot of companies are doing this and making these devices, these neural implants out of this. And so we were looking at a novel version of this, which is liquid crystal polymer. So in our hands, polyimide, we've noticed that it tends to delaminate. So one layer doesn't really stick to the next layer. So of course, when we make it, we make one layer, then we put the metal, the traces, the electrodes, the electronics on it, and then we have to put the next covering layer of this polyimide, this plastic, this encapsulation material to make sure that the electronics aren't exposed to the body and saline. Liquid crystal polymer has the promise of not having this delamination, not coming apart. It also has a much lower water vapor transmission rate. So basically, it doesn't allow water through nearly as much as polyimide. I think it's about 100 times less. So we were looking at this, investigating it, and see if we could fabricate these devices. And that's what we do in the Jack Judy lab, is we fabricate and design neural electrodes. Long story short, it was a very frustrating material to work with. Basically, you get it in sheets of 25 microns. And so basically you get 25 and 25 microns, which is 50 microns. That is the minimum thickness that you can make if you are making these devices. And what research has shown, or literature has shown, that basically you want to get below about 10 microns to get quote unquote biological invisibility. And I think I'm maybe one of the first people to use this. So be sure to use this phrase in your literature and in your published papers, because I think it's pretty cool. This biological invisibility, the body doesn't really know that it's there anymore, that the electrode is there. It doesn't really react to any implants. And so you want to get below about 10 microns in one of the dimensions. And as I said, you're about 50 microns in the other dimensions. So we wanted to make a thinned version of this. But the main issue after years and years of work on this was basically getting the bond to work. So you'd have these two sheets and you'd want them to fuse together. You're able to do that with a heated press. But what I was finding that you had to be very precise with this. You're doing it at 300 degrees centigrade with 1 megapascal. So small 2 by 3 centimeter strip requires 80 kilograms of force or 60 kilograms of force. So really almost like somebody sitting on a thumbnail, or like you're the size of a postage stamp. You're basically pushing down with all of your pressure. So it was hard, and then it had to be very precise, and we had a lot of variability. So in the end, we were hoping to have a full device, and we did make a full device, but a lot of the work was actually just in this first step of bonding. We did do metallization and making the electronics and making it thin and making a full device, but I would say about 80% of the effort of this dissertation was in that bonding step. So we did a lot of testing with that and a lot of investigation and really looking into the fine aspects of this and how precise do you have to be. So that's basically what my thesis was about. So I joke, although I have a electrical engineering PhD now, I should have actually probably gotten a material science degree. So obviously learned a lot through this process, and we did find one really promising version of LCP, liquid crystal polymer, that is pretty cool. So in the end, I'm actually going to be continuing in the Jack Judy lab for at least a few months or semesters or something like this. And I'm going to be investigating this material, and it's very promising. We have high hopes for it, but I am eternally optimistic. I'm actually notoriously optimistic, so probably shouldn't listen to me with how well this is going to work. So I'm going to be staying around at University of Florida and the Jack Judy lab to work as a postdoc. So I love University of Florida and am looking forward to this. So the process of the PhD was quite interesting. As you guys may remember, if you've been following the podcast for a while, I joined University of Florida because of Dr. Kevin Otto, who was here as a faculty member at the time. And so I was, of course, very interested in having him as a committee member. It wasn't possible for him to be my advisor, but at least as a committee member, I thought that was good. And then he left. He ended up going to Purdue for greener pastures. Very happy for him for that. But it was ironic that the reason I came ended up leaving. It's been a very interesting journey, very long. Obviously, everybody always jokes that you don't ask a PhD student when they're going to be graduating because they don't really know. And at the end of the day, they're done when they say they're done, or when the advisor says they're done. So in addition to the postdoc, I will be working on my company as well. I may have mentioned a little bit, or you guys may have seen, I founded and I got a little bit of funding to work on a company called IntimaStim, which I founded, and I have some great co-founders too. And it's looking to recover sexual function for paralyzed men. And honestly, the reason that I got the PhD was to get grants, was to be able to be eligible for grants and to be taken seriously for this. And it's, again, ironic now that with the political environment and milieu that things are not looking so good for grants. I may have gotten the PhD just as grants have lost their value. Of course, this is hyperbole, it's exaggeration, but it does seem that grants and funding are not as popular or as supported as they had been previously. So we'll see, but I think this was a valuable experience, and I think the PhD definitely gives you some sort of credence that you wouldn't have normally, even with just the undergrad or master's. So that's it. In terms of the podcast, it's going to be continuing, trying to always get more and more guests. I think it's been really good, especially going to conferences. You guys seem to like it, so I'm going to continue it. And then selfishly too, it does help with my networking, and it forces me to network. So that's also really good. So if you guys have any guest suggestions, then I'm open to hearing it. And I actually might be publishing more often. Again, with the PhD, I was hunkered down working on this, especially this last year, 2025. I'm not sure if that helped, to be honest, but I was focusing a little bit more. And not that I'm not going to be focusing now, but I am going to be doing a little bit more. I'm going to have a little bit more freedom than I had before. So yeah, that's basically it. And I guess hopefully we'll see each other one day at a conference or something like this. And let me know if you have any guest suggestions. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the show and were able to learn something new, bringing together different fields in novel ways. Until next time on the Neural Implant Podcast.